next question is, what's a conjugate and what do you do with one once you have it? Now, the last lesson we talked about adding and subtracting and multiplying complex numbers, and they work just like polynomials, just like trinomials and binomials and multiply polynomials. So I want to take you back a little bit, talk about some very important two binomials when multiplied together that give you the difference of two squares. Now, the difference two squares, okay? That was something that might look like, oh, I don't know, 9x squared minus, oh, 16. And we could factor that. And when it factored, we got 3x minus 4 and 3x plus 4. That means, okay, that when I multiply this here together, I get that there. Guaranteed. Now, that was something you were supposed to have learned last year. Hopefully you did. If not, we'll come to tutoring. I'll work with you. So this idea of difference two squares means that I have two perfect squared things with a subtraction sign behind it, and I can factor it into two things that are being multiplied. That the only difference between those two things, the only difference is that right there, is the signs between them. Okay, we call this right here, these are conjugates. The only difference between a conjugate is one is the evil twin and one is the good twin. How do I know? They're twins. They look exactly alike. It's what's inside them, and it's the difference between the negative, the subtraction in there, and the positive, which is the good twin. So we're going to use this concept, and it's going to help us out when we deal with complex numbers and division. Now remember, we can write division as a fraction. So let's use this idea of a conjugate, and let's see what happens when I want to come up with, let's multiply two complex numbers that are conjugates. Okay? Let's say I have, oh, I don't know, 3i minus 4. That's complex now. Remember, it doesn't have an x. And 3i plus 4. Okay, I want to stick it in my little box just to prove it to y'all that it works. And what I'm going to get, 3i minus 4, 3i plus 4. Let's do our little multiplication. I get 9i squared. I get negative 12i, get positive 12i, and I get negative 16. It's important here. You should notice the negative 12i and the positive 12i cancel themselves out, and I end up with 9i squared minus 16. Now remember, I squared is really negative 1. So I have really negative 9 minus 16. And that would give me negative 35. So I ended up, by using my conjugates, I can take two complex numbers that are conjugates and get a real number. That's the big idea here, guys. I could take two conjugatal complex numbers, multiply them, and get a real number. I want you to practice. I want you to see if you can figure out what's the conjugate of something. I know y'all can do it. Work hard. I know. I'm proud of y'all. Bye.